So this September, I'll be celebrating 500 days of intermittent fasting. I made it a New Year's resolution in 2020 to normalize my relationship with food. And I find that doing a 16-hour fast every day, an occasional multi-day fast, kind of helps me balance just where food belongs in my life. And I love it. I feel good when I'm fasting. I feel good while I'm eating. Especially after a 16-hour fast, food tastes really good. It really highlights your taste buds a lot. And given a choice between 3 really bland meals or that one really delicious meal, I'll let you think about which one I choose in terms of which one brings me more joy. That's another story for another time. This video is about the name calling and harassment that often goes on when I'm fasting. People think that I'm anorexic. They say I have an eating disorder. They say I'm paranoid. Sometimes they even accuse me of causing all sorts of social ills in our society, right? Body image problems. Now, I really don't mind the name calling anymore. I used to a lot more than I do now. Lately, when people name call, I just think about how happy I am to be fasting and feel sorry for these people that they're not enjoying it. And I'll feel happy for them that they get some joy out of name calling. I literally feel that way. There's only one exception to that. There is one place where I still care about the name calling. I'll let you pause the video to think about that one place. When it becomes a problem with my career, right? See, if I meet somebody at a club that I'm going to, at the bowling alley, if I go out and meet somebody that I met on a dating website and they harass me for fasting, I move on, right? Or even if it's a family member, I let them have it, right? And then I'll wish them well, right? Hopefully one day they'll discover fasting. That's fine. But when it starts to affect my career and my ability to continue fasting, right? My livelihood, right? Oh, that's when I start to feel pain from the name calling. Other than that, I could deal with it. Although I probably shouldn't deal with it as much as I am, because that's probably why this is such a pervasive problem in our society, right? But do you know what another eating disorder is? An even bigger one than doing an intermittent fast. When you start to care more about what other people are eating, more so than what you're eating, I think that's the very definition of an eating disorder, right? When you can't dissociate. See, when I go to a activity, whether it be work, whether it be a social activity, there's a lot more to that than food, right? But a lot of people don't see otherwise, right? They just exclude you, right? You go to a job interview and you don't eat what they eat, and in their minds, they've already taken that as a black mark, right? Obviously, they're not going to put, we didn't hire you because of your eating differences, right? They legally probably can't do that, but a lot of times it becomes a mental black mark, right? Now, when you think work, when you're confusing work with food, you're confusing social activity with food, you confuse relationships with food, you confuse family members with food, that's an eating disorder right there, right? There's a lot more to work than food, right? Actually, work is almost never food, unless you're like a wine tasting expert or a food tasting expert. Work is almost never food, but people confuse it, right? Relationships are almost never about food, right? They're about managing your resources and reproduction, right? Food is only one part of it, right? When you confuse that with food, that's an eating disorder right there, right? When you start to impute how happy people are based on what they eat, that's an eating disorder. Anyways, I thought I would point that out. That's probably the number one, or another one, when food takes up such a big part of your monthly budget that there's almost no money left for anything else, right? Here in Phoenix, it's the number 2 budget expense for the average person living here. I think that's an eating disorder right there, right? Anyways, when food takes up such a big part of your life that you can't imagine going to work without food, you can't imagine, it's causing a big uproar right now that, right now as I speak, a lot of countries are reopening their borders, but it's really hard to fly anywhere because a lot of people get into air rage, right? I don't want to get on a flight right now because I have anxiety myself. I don't want to sit next to somebody who's dealing with air rage. And a big part of that air rage is that people have to put on a mask. And obviously, I think a big reason people dislike putting on a mask is that it stops them from eating, right? See, when you can't even fly from Phoenix to Seattle or to New York, right? God forbid an international flight without thinking about food, right? That's an eating disorder right there. There's so much to do on a flight, right? Usually, if I'm flying to New York, I would love to see the Rocky Mountains along the way, right? To be so entangled by food cravings and the thought of food and the culture of food that you can't even enjoy a 4-hour flight where you get to see the Rocky Mountains, I think that's a big, big eating disorder right there, right? Anyways, I thought I would point that out, right? There's a lot more to eating disorders than anorexia or controlling your eating patterns, right? Especially when you care more about other people's eating disorders than your own, that's a big, big eating disorder right there. Thanks for watching.